want your soul.
I know you all are already judging me. If you're not 18 years old and you're here, you should probably hop off this. Go listen to Lighthouse Horror. You're not old enough for this yet. Anyways, those late night porn ads. Oh, they are tempting me. Yes, this is a story about me answering one. Save your tongue clicking and shit for someone else who cares. I was up around 1 a.m. and doing the usual, perusing my Reddit, switching between a million different radios on Spotify, attempting to do paperwork I was supposed to do last week. Blah, blah, blah. Then, of course, my Google trigger finger gets a little twitchy, and before I know it, I'm pulling up videos for something to help put me to sleep. I hit the page button on a video on a small, petite little blonde who had Fault City competition going between her tan and bleached smile and a hunk of meat 3 times her size to change into some looser shorts when I noticed it. A shot of a rather busty, semi-attractive brunette with hazel eyes popped up on the pause with the caption, "Megan is 33 miles away and wants to chat with you." I sighed to no one at all and let my mouse hover over it. I always kinda had a thing for hazel eyes, and who knows, I never had been ballsy enough to answer one of these ads anyways. My fingers itched, and temptation began to dig into my frontal lobe like a crackhead with a spade. I knew better. But I didn't care. I was giving in to my urges, my wants. I clicked it. Before I knew it, a website was popping up asking me some simple questions. Are you over 18? Duh. Are you clean and tested for STDs? Oh, monthly, buddy boy. Are you willing to be discreet? Do I look like I want people knowing I actually used one of these? No shit, Sherlock. I clicked the final yes and it took me to a brand new page. This one was a little different in coloring and format, and suddenly I was being greeted by a wall of women that were supposedly near me. This page, I could tell, was made to cater to all different types of porn geeks. Women were sorted by labels similar to category pages: MILF, Ebony, etc. I uploaded a quick profile picture and went and found one in my town. I licked my lips. Urges were about to be fulfilled. Her tag declared her bisexual, and we were around the same age, which was perfect. I clicked her chat button right away. Hey there. I sent the message and simply stared at the rather bare conversation window. Eventually, I minimized it, putting my primal urges back in their place. After a couple minutes of porn surfing, a blip sounded. Hi, beautiful. I scoffed. Not a bot, but a laggy one. Are you real? I wrote. Please be real. This response was a lot faster. Yes, love, I'm real. And for you, I can be just about anything. Okay, that's better. A cheesy AI, but my urges started gnawing at the inside of my brain. Fair enough. Do you do house calls? And do you charge? I sent. Here we're going to get to the moment of truth. And the blip pinged off my computer. Absolutely on the house calls, and no on the cost. This site is like Tinder, but cheaper. Here's my number. Shoot me your location. Holy fucking shit. It actually works. My urges were full-blown howling now. I texted her my address and got up, smirking while I closed my laptop. A cheap fuck for sure, but better than my right hand and changing my underwear 3 times before the night was done. A quick shower was in order, along with a quick bedroom tidy-up. Besides, it was about to get a little messier than it already was. She arrived just as I was shaking my hair out of the towel. Apparently, she was actually just a short 15-minute jaunt away. I swear, if someone had mic'd the inside of my head, it would sound like a zoo. I was so goddamn hungry for this. She was as cute in person as she was in her profile. Gray sweatpants, blue eyes, and shoulder-length, chocolate brown hair. Oh yes, oh yes. I started making small talk with her, attempting to hide my giddiness at this shit for actually working out. I asked her how long she had been on the site, and she answered a couple weeks because Tinder just wasn't doing it for her. I laughed and poured us both whiskey on the rocks. She sipped hers lightly, still very obviously nervous at being in a stranger's house, although noting that she felt a little safer that I was a female as well. I devilishly winked and told her she was still fair game, to which she giggled. I smiled and played the part, throwing my charm into full swing. I was about to go in for the kill like a fucking champion. While she talked, I made sure to lean closer and share her air. She took the cue, closing the space between us. My tongue then slipped between her lips, my hand slipping up her thigh and my other coming to cup her chin. I breathlessly asked if we could move this to my room, and she didn't argue, letting me wrap my arms around her waist and push her towards my bed like we were hormone-crazed high schoolers, which was so refreshing. She scampered up onto my comforter while I opened my nightstand, shyly noting she hadn't had an affair with a girl via the site before. I grinned reassuringly, telling her I wasn't about to make her first time doing this sort of thing a forgettable one. She laid back for me, letting me kiss her neck, run my hands down her body like I had never felt one in my life. And that's when I made the first cut. Her face was beautiful. That's always my favorite part. A girl's O face and the pain face are very close in nature. I started by slashing her arms, her wrists, to her elbows. She started screaming, wailing, trying to push me off, but the pain was excruciating. I can't blame her. I mean, she was literally bleeding out. The next one was to her thigh while she attempted to scramble off my bed, squealing. I grabbed her by her hair, wrapping her back, and I wrenched a fat gash on her as I was skilled enough to nick her artery. All that med school mama paid for didn't go entirely to waste, I guess. She bled out in my hallway. She was only 120 pounds at most anyways, and she wasn't going to make it that far. I groaned, lying back on my bed thinking about the literal and figurative mess. I cursed myself while I threw her body down the basement stairs to join the rest of them. I already knew how this would play out. The police would stop here tomorrow morning, asking if I'd seen her because traffic cams showed her coming in. I would fake a blush to those fucking pigs and say she did, but I had her leave out the back down the dirt road, because my girl was due to come home and I wasn't going to risk her finding out that I was cheating. Oh, cheating. I would then top it off with a fake couple of tears, pretending I was a jaded lover. I knew this would happen. I knew my urges would win. They always do. Those late-night porn ads. You can't ever trust them. Let me start this off by saying that I'm not a porn addict. And if I make it through this, I am never going to visit a porn site again. Last week, I broke things off with my girlfriend of 3 years when I came home from work to find her with 2 other guys in our bed. I fell into a bit of a depression and spent the next few weeks getting stinking drunk, trying to forget about her. I was so deeply in love with her, I was probably coming off as beyond pathetic. She would call my phone begging for forgiveness, and it took everything in me to block her number. Some time passed, and one night after I had guzzled a few beers, I was feeling a little frisky, and decided to fire up my old desktop for some quality one-on-one time with myself. Now, this is where shit gets weird. You've probably seen those ads on porn sites like local MILFs in your area tonight. Don't bullshit me. I know you have. I saw one of those, but I almost spit out my sip of beer in laughter at the headline. Bang a local witch tonight, the caption read. accompanied by a picture of a hot young blonde and redhead, both dressed in nothing but a couple of traditional long, pointy black witch hats with buckles above the brim. What the fuck is this? I remember chuckling to myself. I had to investigate further and click the pop-up. It brought me to a page that looked like a Tinder clone, and I was prompted to set up a profile. After triple checking with my antivirus program to confirm I wouldn't lose my credit card information or anything, I decided to join. This was the most fun that I'd had since the breakup, and I wasn't even thinking about what's-her-face as I set up my account. After about 5 minutes of the usual song and dance, where I picked the best pictures of myself and wrote a little blurb for my profile, I was ready to begin swiping. I began clicking yes on just about every goth girl I saw, and within a couple minutes, I had run out of profiles. I was about to close the site when I got a notification for a match and a message. "Hey," it read. "Hey yourself," I replied, cringing at how unsmooth my words were. I double-checked her profile and saw that she was only a mile away from me. She had only one photo of herself, but that was all I needed to go off of. She wore purple lipstick in the picture with matching purple hair, and a black leather corset that looked like it was threatening to pop off of her at any second. I was smitten. We talked for a couple more minutes before she dropped the big message. "Why don't you just come over? We're very close," it read. I don't think my shoes were even tied up before I jumped out of the house and into my car. I was on such a mixed buzz of beers and endorphins, I felt invincible. Never mind the dangers of driving drunk or showing up to a stranger's house at 1 a.m. in the morning. Her place was just down the block from mine, but it was enough out of the way that I had never been there myself. It just led into the suburbs, out of the way of any place I would ever need to actually be. My jaw almost hit the floor when I saw her house. It must have been the oldest place in the area. It looked like it was built by some wealthy family 100 years ago. I'm no expert in architecture, and could only go on record as saying it reminded me of where Lizzie Borden may have lived. I started to get cold feet as I approached her porch. The situation I was in was becoming too real for me. It was one thing to flirt online, but the reality of who and or what was behind that door was starting to tie knots in my stomach. Fighting every ounce of sensible being behind my facade of 5 beers and a hard-on strong enough to make a temple of nuns cry, I rang the doorbell. I was pleasantly surprised when she answered the door, and equally horrified when I realized I had no idea what her name was. I decided to open with a "hey," leaning into the doorway, arms crossed and holding back on every urge I had to pull finger guns and wink or some other cheesy move. I don't know if it was just my own awkward self, or maybe a curse placed on me by the lone Budweiser I'd left on my dresser to watch me guzzle their friends. Whatever, I was in after all. I remember taking off my shoes as she spoke to me. I don't remember what she said, or how she said it, but I remember sipping wine on the couch with her, and the next, I was in her bed. I wish I had more details to go off of, but I must have blacked out or something during my time there. I just remember a couple of flashes of her on top of me, and once she looked exactly like she did in her photo, but the next, her plump purple-colored lips faded to a withered and dried-out black. All flaky and cold like the coals of a smoldered fire. Her skin hung from her body like wax trying to run off a burning candle wick. She looked older than anybody I had ever seen alive. The last thing I remember from that night was her standing over my body inside a circle of blue candles, their tips all burning a bright orange as she mumbled something to herself. Finally, she mumbled something a little louder and final sounding, and then all the candles went out. That's the last thing I remember before waking up in my bed today. I was clutching my head, like I had the worst hangover of the century. I felt itchy all over my body. But the worst was when I went to the bathroom to shower and found these. Purple welts all over my junk. They were swelling, and I almost threw up at the pure shock and disgust I felt looking at them. I turned on the shower to a scorching hot temperature, just hoping to take the swelling down or melt them off together. I just needed release from the growing ache of them. And that was my worst mistake, besides showing up to that chick's house in the first place. The warts began to pop, one by one, and these little tiny black creatures began to fly out of them. They couldn't have been bigger than a common house spider, but they all started to pile up in the corner of the room, getting to be roughly as big as a grapefruit. I screamed, and turned off the shower as I threw a shampoo bottle at the growing black mass. They began to scatter under the bathroom door or down the sink. I stood there naked and afraid in the shower for a second before shaking myself to my senses, and grabbing a towel to throw on before heading to my back room. I immediately turned my PC on, and went to my search history to find the dating site I had used the night before to find the source of my living nightmare, but there was no trace of it. I tried every possible name the site could have been called, but I turned up empty-handed. All the while, purple warts had begun to form on my chest and arms. I had one Hail Mary left, though. I checked my car's GPS and found the address I had gone to the night before. And I plugged the coordinates back in and put my foot to the floor. And just like the first time, my jaw hit the ground when I saw her house again, but for the wrong reasons. I found myself standing in front of a dilapidated, run-down old mess of a house with a sign in the front stating a date for its demolition. I moved closer to inspect it, and the lawn was feral and long, like it hadn't been touched in a decade or more. The windows and front door were boarded up with some sort of trespassers beware sign on all of them. Defeated, I came home and began typing up my experience, but I've been here doing that for a while now, and my situation is just getting worse. The warts on my chest and arms have been getting so big they've been pushing against each other until they burst open. The things that keep coming out of them are just getting bigger and bigger too. They're now piling up into the corner of my room, and they've gotten to the size and shape of a featureless toddler now. I decided to throw a chair at it, but it contorted itself like a rag doll, bending at an inhuman angle to avoid it, and I'm very scared. The warts have been growing over my face and almost completely obscuring my vision too. I can now hear that thing in the corner mimicking human breath, and I don't know what it's trying to do or what it thinks it can accomplish. But I'm calling an ambulance and the police before I just become a hive for these things to spawn. I'm afraid that this may very well be the last anyone hears of me. Please, everyone, if you're out there, avoid witch dating sites at all costs. I wish I had. Hey, give me another beer, Will said to the bartender. Okay, and for you? The bartender gestured towards me. Can I get a martini? The bartender gave me a look like I had asked him to meet me on the other side of the hole in the bathroom stall. We have beer and beer, he said plainly. Well, one of those then, I replied. I turned to Will. So what are we doing in this shithole again? I told you, Bill wants to meet here today, he said. Bill was my tapes guy. About 10 years ago, I started a gore site online. At first, I could barely scrape together enough money from porn ads posted to my site to make rent. But then the competition started to grow, and I just didn't have enough unique content to gather views. Until I met Bill. I don't ask Bill where he gets his tapes. He just brings me a crazy new batch every week, I pay him, and then we go our separate ways. Usually me and Bill meet at a Taco Bell or a pub, but today he dragged us halfway across town to some scummy dive where half the patrons look like they would sell their mother's cooch for a hit of anything. Probably a good half of my website viewers were in here. Okay, fine, but why this place? Will rolled his eyes, gave a shrug, and took a big swig of the beer in front of him, and I looked at mine and did the same thing. A couple beers later, and I was starting to get into the heavy metal blasting on the jukebox when I felt a hand on my shoulder. Hey boys, I'm here. Follow me. And it was Bill. Bill then gestured for us to follow him to a table in the back, one that was unoccupied. Come on, Bill, I said. Why did you take us to this place? Ted Bundy picks up his dry cleaning here? What was wrong with meeting us at a Wendy's or something? It's not that bad, Bill Bill said, winking at a beer-bellied biker chick on our way to the table. We needed someplace loud. Besides, check out the tail in here. Thanks, but I'll pass, I groaned. Well, suit yourself. And Bill pulled out a chair for himself and placed a duffel bag on the table. Got something old school for you today, Bill beamed as he produced 3 blank VHS tapes from the bag. What's this? Columbine security tapes? A third angle of the JFK assassination? Long-awaited Osama bin Laden death footage? Come on, Bill grunted, clearly done with my sarcasm. This is gonna turn your brain to shit. I got him in New Orleans. Authentic voodoo magic inside the tapes. You just write a name on the blank card of the front of the VHS and the death appears on the tape. You could reuse this to have a slew of constant celebrity deaths on your website. Well, wouldn't people expect it to be AI-generated footage or some other trick? It's not like watching Taylor Swift die would mean anything if she's not actually dead. Oh, but she would be, Bill said in a growly whisper. What? What do you mean? Voodoo magic, Bill replied, a glint in his eye. You think I'm joking? Bill had never lied to me before, but I was starting to think all the acid he'd taken in the 90s had caught up to him. Well, no. What do you want for the tapes, Bill? 50 grand. I almost spit out my sip of lukewarm beer. That's well over 4 times our usual rate, dude. Well, you're not going to need me for a while after you buy these. And I also need time to restock my personal stash. It's not easy coming up with the shit I get for you weekly. All right, I'll give it a shot, I said as I shook Bill's hand. If I knew that that was the last time I was going to see Bill, I would have smashed the tapes then and there. Me and Will left the bar and went our separate ways home. I think Bill decided to stick around a bit longer to fawn over the biker chicks, that old dog. It was getting late when I got home, but I decided I wanted to see what I had spent half a month's earnings on. I opened up the duffel bag Bill had left me with and pulled the tapes out. Each was in a dark red leather sleeve that was cold to the touch. I sat at my workstation and looked up to one of my computer monitors I had left open on a Twitch stream, and I got a horrible idea. I did a quick search for Jumbo Shrimp Harry 33, a pretty big streamer that had been found guilty on all counts of abusing kids and his wife. Hell, a video even leaked of him strangling his 5-year-old daughter, but he somehow got out of it in court. Surely nobody would miss him, right? People just watched him in wait of some new morbid fuck-up on his part. He's a real sick guy. Anyhow, I wrote his name on the tape, wondering if the voodoo magic would understand Twitch handles, and stuck the tape in the small VCR TV combo I had on the left of my corner desk. The TV crackled to life and a recording of Jumbo Shrimp's stream started to play. I looked over at my monitor with the live stream. He was playing the same game, but the tape appeared to be an hour ahead, judging by the clock visible on his stream. I then heard a loud banging coming from the TV, and I looked back at it just in time to see a SWAT team burst through his door and start pumping round after round into his chest with automatic rifles. The SWAT members started to leave the room single file, leaving Jumbo Shrimp sputtering and twitching on the floor, all except one SWAT. He stood there, just staring into the camera. He took a step forward, then another and another, until he got to the streamer's body, and then he reached down and forced his hand into his chest, ripping his still beating heart out. Between the riot gear on his face and the grainy VHS footage, I couldn't make out who it was under the helmet, but I swear I could make out a thin, evil smirk. The SWAT guy walked over to the door where they entered, heart still in hand, and began to write another one on it in blood before everything cut to static and I was left alone in my room, wondering what in the actual fuck I had just witnessed. I turned back to the live stream and waited, and sure enough, he was swatted an hour later. It was different from the tape though. The SWAT called out to him and he pulled the small gun from somewhere out of view. When the SWAT entered, he took aim and fired before being gunned down. The team then surrounded his body and one ran over to shut off the stream. I was completely flabbergasted. At this point it was close to midnight and I knew calling Bill would be fruitless. He was probably balls deep in some trucker mama from the bar at this point. So I decided to turn in for the night. Around 3 a.m., I woke up to a banging, like somebody was throwing something around. The banging sounded like it was coming from my office, so I went to investigate. I cracked open the door and saw one of the tapes whipping around the room, but when I entered it, it fell on the floor. I checked the label on the tape and it said James and Bill. My heart jumped into my throat and then plummeted into my stomach. I popped the tape into my TV and saw a man I assumed to be James in a room with walls of tapes with labels written in marker. James was backing up into a corner screaming, "Bill, take anything you want, but we have to burn those tapes. It may be our only chance to break the curse." "You never told me the tapes kill anybody that uses them," Bill said coldly. "If I'm going down, you're coming with me," Bill said, pulling out a small revolver from his pocket. "Bill, stop. I didn't know. I tracked the history of anybody that's used them and they're all dead. I tried telling you about Fred last week, but you wouldn't listen. You son of a bitch. You never listened." James didn't get a chance to go on any further. Bill then aimed the gun at James and pulled the trigger, and the force of the gun was so strong that James's eye popped out as a river of blood poured from his head, filling the empty socket. Bill then put the gun in his mouth and pulled the trigger too, falling somewhere off screen. There were about 10 seconds of silence, only interrupted by the drip 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 of James's excess blood slowly puddling to the floor as he sat propped up against the wall. I sat in shocked silence. I then reached for my landline on the desk beside me to call Bill and try to stop him from taking his and James's lives, when I saw a new tape propped against the phone with my name on it. I felt like somewhere in between throwing up and shitting my pants as I popped the new tape in. I was greeted with a shot of myself apparently watching this tape. It was like a mirror. I waved in real life, and I waved back on the tape. Then I stopped waving on screen, and out of nowhere, 2 hands clutching a garrote threw themselves over my head and began working the tool back and forth, slowly slicing my throat open. It's a surreal thing, watching yourself die. I spun around to make sure nobody was in the room with me and turned back to the screen. The garrote was halfway through my neck and oozing blood when the hand stopped cutting and started pulling my head back, tearing it clean off as a geyser of blood rained out. The hands pushed my body aside, revealing a small, thin-lipped man who had a face like a weasel. I immediately recognized those lips as the same ones worn under the riot armor from my tape experiment earlier. "You like that?" the man asked. "This could be you, unless you want to do something for me." "What?" I stammered. "Check the list of names I just slid under your door." I heard the rustling of paper and saw something shoot under my door. I then rushed over and flung the door open to catch this bastard, but nobody was there. I retrieved the piece of paper and walked back to the TV where the man was practicing layups with my severed head. "Ah, perfect," the man said when he saw I had returned and quickly shot my head into the trash can under my desk. "So you're going to write every one of those names on that list down. Every name gives you another hour of life. Unless you actually want your head to be used for a game of horse. When you finish this list, I'll have another ready for you. Do anything to harm those tapes and I'll gut you like a fish quicker than you can light a match." And then the tape stopped. So now, I've been writing names down onto the tapes in between writing paragraphs here in some last-ditch attempt effort to clear myself. But I know sooner or later he is going to come for me. I'm going to have to go to sleep at some point. I'm on my 4th list and can barely keep my eyes open. I don't know what will happen to the tapes once I'm gone, but please, if you find them in a thrift store, online or a porno shop or any other place, stay away. Stay away from the death tapes. So earlier tonight, I found my sister's OnlyFans account. Oh boy, I'll get the obvious questions out of the way first. No, I didn't know she had one when I found it. It was a total surprise to me. I wasn't hunting for it. There were no rumors going around school about my big sister or anything like that, which would lead me to think that she was even on there. She's not that kind of girl. Well, I don't think so, at least. But what do I know? Clearly not very fucking much when it comes to Dina, if you know what I mean. I didn't go snooping through her phone, either. A business card fell out of her coat when she hurriedly left the house a few hours ago. I've never even laid hands on her phone. I wouldn't invade her privacy like that. And finally, I wasn't planning to view her OnlyFans for gross reasons. I was going to blackmail the living shit out of her and get free rides all summer before she left for college. Mom and Dad would flip out if they saw it. Well, that's what I thought they'd do before I found it and watched a couple of the videos. I don't think they'll be pissed about Dina's OnlyFans videos anymore. They're in at least 3 of them that I saw. Oh yeah? Of course I watched the videos once I found her page. Again, not for anything gross. I'm not a horny teenage pervert 4chaner with a stalk on for his sister. How insulting that you would even think that. I'd never even used OnlyFans before I needed it for leverage in this endless sibling war. I thought I'd see something gross in the preview thumbs and have to nope out ASAP. In fact, I was hoping that would be the case. Because if it wasn't gross, then I had no blackmail material, right? My sister's OnlyFans didn't have any porn, though. Are you relieved? Don't be. I clicked the first of those odd pictures of random bushes out of curiosity. I lingered longer than a minute as the initial video played out of morbid fascination. I couldn't stop because, well, we all remember what watching 9/11 footage for the first time was like. There's a point where you should walk away, but the point that you can't sadly always comes sooner. Dina's account wasn't called anything conspicuous. Well, that depends on your point of view at least. It didn't contain anything inherently sexual, is what I mean. If you found her business card and weren't aware of OnlyFans, you'd have no reason to jump to conclusions about nudity or provocative explicit material. I'm not even going to give you the exact name. I don't think it's a good idea if people go looking. A traffic spike would be suspicious, I'll bet. She only has a few dozen subscribers or followers or whatever the OnlyFans term for them is. It's called something as boring as cement drying 4K, although not about cement, and with a different number and letter to advertise the picture quality. She has 37 videos, of which I watched 6. I only stopped because I heard the crashing front door downstairs, from her angrily storming in and slamming it behind her. Before tonight, I'd have chalked this unremarkable event up to a bad date. Unfortunately, the last video I watched was her most recent upload, the one she posted 10 minutes before getting home. Now that sound has me hiding in my closet, damn near pissing my pants. The only reason I haven't called the cops is, well, shit, that's my sister. You don't rat out family, do you? I'm only telling you this because, well, I've heard way more stories about folks being killed by family members than sold out to the cops by them, but I don't know about you. I'm sure they wouldn't, but I can't just play innocent, right? She doesn't know I know, and Mom and Dad are none the wiser. I could just keep my mouth shut, wake up tomorrow, smile over pancakes, and carry on living our little suburban lie. I can pretend I haven't seen the 10-minute-long videos and that bestial snarl on my otherwise demure sister's face every time I can't even bring myself to talk about it. And my mom and dad just stood there. And even when she got out and how can her jaw unhinge so? No, I can't. I can't even bring myself to do it. Even talking about it is terrible. Where do they even find them? How do they get rid of them afterward? A lot of questions, the answers to which might not matter much tomorrow. The last video, though, the one they uploaded tonight, was different from the others. Only 3 minutes and 29 seconds, cut off shortly and abruptly long before the usual conclusion. Judging by just how loud my sister's screaming into her pillow, my guess is they didn't have a contingency plan. I don't think my mom and dad will be back for a while. My mom's frantic shrill bleeding at the 3-minute mark was all the clue I needed to know this was no minor mistake. my dad will have a black eye for weeks. The ropes breaking hadn't been part of the plan, and the forest in Herbert's woods is thick. If they're done searching before dawn, I'll be genuinely amazed. Even though the toes have always been chewed off by the second minute, the guy in tonight's video could run pretty fast. First, let me ask, who still buys bootleg DVDs? If you're on Reddit, then I'm guessing you know where to find everything you need for free online. Anyways, last night I was leaving my usual pizza place. I managed to get an order in that last moment, so I tipped well. Grabbed my pizza and headed back to my car. Outside, I was greeted by an older guy, maybe in his late 20s or early 30s. But it's hard to tell with guys like this. Drugs in life can make you look a lot older than you are. Anyways, he approached me asking if I wanted to buy any DVDs. He listed off several movies, flipping through a case as he does. Before I could tell him I wasn't interested, he offered something that made me take a second glance. It was porn, of course, and I know what you're thinking. Who the fuck buys porn when the internet is full of it? But that's what made me curious, and of course curiosity always kills the cat. I asked him about some of the movies and he said he would cut me a deal. $10 and every DVD was mine. Too good of a deal to pass up, so I handed him $15. Hey man, fair warning since you seem like a nice guy. None of these are titled, but I promise you'll like what you see. If not, I'll be here and we can work something out, he told me. That kind of put me on edge, but the fact that he offered a return policy scared me more than the possibility that I bought tranny porn or something like that. Yeah man, sure, that's great. I'm sure I'll enjoy them. If not, just keep the money. I don't care, I said, walking back to my car. Hell, I was positive I wouldn't see this guy again, and if the vids did suck, I'll just trash them or prank a friend. When I finally got to my house, I don't know why, but I just felt compelled to watch one of the pornos. Even if it was just for a minute or two. I put the first DVD in, Untitled as he said, and sat down on my couch. Weirdly, it wasn't just a bootleg that went straight to the sex, but it had semi-professional presentation, like a title menu that obviously wasn't made by the people that made the porno, but it was a title menu nonetheless. It had your standard play movie, scene select, and more, like your average movie, but just that. There was literally nothing else on the DVD screen. I hit play the movie, and your average backroom casting couch wannabe video starts. A woman had her back turned to the camera, and a tall man wearing all black entered, and then the video stops. It just stops. No return to title or anything. I opened the tray and closed it again, hoping I didn't spend $15 on non-working porn. The title menu popped back up with a new addition, special features. Of course, I get a little weirded out, but I chalk it up to the guy burning the DVD and making a title menu weirdly. I click special features and the only thing there is the letter A. Maybe I should have stopped when I saw that and just ate the pizza, but curiosity is a slow burning motherfucker. I clicked A and hit play, but instead of the small casting room, it cuts to 3 guys in masks in the backseat of a van, aiming the camera at random women and prostitutes. It goes on for around 3 minutes, but nothing exciting happens. They talk, cuss, and occasionally point the camera at some girl. It abruptly ends like the actual porn, so I get up and place the next DVD in. This time it cuts straight to the DVD, and this is a little longer. This time the young girl is on the couch, while the guy behind the camera, I'm guessing the guy from the first video, asks her some questions. And they're standard casting room questions if you've ever seen one of those videos. But then the questions got darker and vulgar, even for porn, to the point they started to sound like demands. You ever been fucked by 3 guys at once, bitch? Huh? How many dicks have you taken at once? The guy behind the camera said in an almost sinister voice. Suddenly, the camera cut out and back on. The girl is completely naked now with bruises from her neck down to her ankles. You can tell the girl was young, but at least 18 or so. I felt sick, but I couldn't turn away. The girl just spun around for 5 minutes and then the DVD stops like the last one. Only this time it went back to a title menu that wasn't there before. Next to play movie is the word gift in big red letters. I, of course, try to click it, but it only ejects the DVD. I try and try again, but it ejects every time. So I finally get up and put the third DVD in. The third DVD starts up and this one is a lot more professional, with a little screensaver thing going on. The images went by too fast for me to get a good look, but I felt like this one would be longer. I started this DVD, and this time it was a group of young naked girls with masks over their faces, and each one either had Gift 1, Gift 2, or Gift 3 written on them. As the girls spun around, I noticed the girl from the prior videos in the back with Gift written on her stomach. Suddenly, it cuts back to the title menu and play is replaced by 4. I stop and catch my breath. I get up and walk around my house checking doors and windows because at this point, I would rather be safe than sorry. I recollect myself and sit back on the couch clutching my remote. I hit 4 and it cuts to gift number 1, 2, and 3 on the couch. One by one, a guy dressed in all black except for the Halloween masks they wore would come in, place his hand over one of the girls' mouths and drag her down to the floor. The first one was quick and clean. He got on top of her and choked her to death while doing so. The second guy walks in and drags the second one to the floor beside his buddy. He then gets on top of her and then guts her. By the time he was done, everybody on the floor was covered in her. Finally, the cameraman positions his camera, only for it to cut out. It cuts back and it's a POV of the third girl on the floor. He tries to get in the average POV shots before he bludgeons her with a hammer and gets blood all over the camera. When he's done, he moves the camera around the room and you can see the girl with gift written on her in the back. He gets up, hands her the camera, takes her mask off and demands her to record them, which she does for 10 minutes. After picking my jaw up from the floor and deciding that I'm already either getting murdered or going to jail, I play the fourth and final DVD. It's a continuation of the first one, only it seems to take place before the two before it. The hostility is gone and so is the blood. It continues to be like a normal porno for 15 minutes before finally ending and going back to the main menu. Just like before, special features was there and inside it was one featurette. A gift for you. Hitting play started a video of the same girl, but this time she was getting pounded by the guys before, and scrolling text was overlaid above, thanking whoever bought this DVD for saving them from this aforementioned life, and to come see them if interested in hiring him or looking for work. I'm tempted to go back and ask for a refund, and ask if this is some sort of a snuff film or a Serbian film or something like that. I decided to go down to the gas station and grab a Mountain Dew. I noticed that I was all out of soda and I was getting thirsty. By the time I got back, I noticed that all the DVDs were gone. What the fuck? Now, I don't live very far from the pizza place, which is why it's my favorite pizza place. But I really doubt the guy that sold the DVDs knows where I live. I'm going to continue looking around and hope I just misplaced them somewhere and forgot. After I've had some time to think about it, I need to make this short and quick because I'm going to pack my shit up and get the fuck out of here. I know he got inside of my house. I can't go to the police without evidence, but I know. I called the pizza place and spoke to one of the workers and I think she's in on it. Now I can't prove it, but it adds up. The girl that works there knows where I live. She operates the phones a lot, so I've told her my address countless times. And she knows a little too much about some random guy that sells DVDs outside of her work. I decided to go up there and talk to her in person, but when I did, she acted like she had no idea what I was talking about. I told her that when I talked to her on the phone, she said she knew, but when I show up, now she's acting stupid. I don't know if she's in on it or if he came by and scared her, but most importantly, I think I recognize her. I can't say for certain, but I think she's the girl from the first video. I didn't want to bring it up because A, it might not have been her. She could ask too many questions and the police could get involved and then all of a sudden this all gets out of control. B, because she is in on it, and she lets him know that I didn't enjoy the videos and now they're going to kill me or whatever. Or C, it was her, this could go two ways, and she either doesn't remember, or it ends up like A and she does remember, and then it ends up like B. For now, I'm going to stay in a motel and just think about what I should do, because this all of a sudden got very messy. I have no evidence of anything, so I can't just go to the police and the DVDs are all gone, so somebody definitely was in my house. This won't be the satisfying conclusion you're looking for, and if you were hoping for a happy ending, I'm sorry. I'm currently in the hotel room and I've had time to think, and I've had time to drink, and those two things combined led me to getting more and more upset. I wanted to find the guy outside the pizza place and beat him to death. I wanted to make him suffer. I wanted answers and I wanted to stop it all, but I failed at everything that I could to stop it, and probably made it worse. Long story short, I got really drunk in the hotel room and decided to go to the pizza place, and there, I lit it on fire. I followed my instincts that were only intensified by anger and alcohol, and I grabbed my last bottle and ripped the bedsheet from the room. I drunkenly drove to the pizza place, half hoping it got shut down because somebody else seen the tapes and reported it. I also half hoped I got pulled over so I could just tell the police what was going on. Maybe a drunk arsonist could convince the cop to ask questions. I don't know. I guess I should just be happy they failed because it felt so good to see that place burn. And I guess I should be happy that my instincts were right. They found charred bodies in the pizza place even though it was 4 a.m. They found the bodies of 5 girls. I guess they went missing and were reported as runaways or something. I recognized one of the faces from the missing signs posted around my neighborhood. And they also found the bodies of 2 men, but they wouldn't release their names. I'm guessing it was the guy I bought the DVDs from and one of the guys from them. So, problem solved for the most part. Of course, there were more guys since they only found 2 of the male bodies and the police still haven't found the owner or the one girl I spoke to. So now I've backed myself into a corner because I can't go into the police at all now that I've committed murder and am in possession of what's probably illegal porn. And there are people that are unaccounted for that could be looking for me. So I don't care anymore. I decided to walk back to my house and see what was going on, and I noticed there was a broken window in my basement. I don't care if they're in there. And I don't care about the DVD that wasn't on my table before, and now it is. I also don't care about the shadow I keep seeing in my house that's supposed to be empty, nor do I care about a door upstairs that's opening. I brought a gun with me, and I'm currently hiding out in my bathroom, waiting to use it.